a perfect day, a family camping trip that had promised peace and relaxation. Yet, as the car rolled to a sudden stop on a winding mountain road, Sarah felt a cold chill creep up her spine. The smell of smoke, faint at first, grew stronger with each passing second. It wasn't just a distant threat anymore, it was approaching fast. Their car, now stuck in traffic, stood in the direct path of an encroaching wildfire. Time was running out. And in that moment, with her heart pounding in her chest, Sarah heard the words she had prayed over and over in her life. "Fear not, for I am with you." Isaiah 41 verse 10. Sarah and Ben had always believed in the power of faith, even when times were good. They were a typical suburban family, a mother and father raising two beautiful children, Emma, age 10, and Joshua, age 7. Their lives had been full of love, laughter, and the ordinary struggles of everyday living. But even in the mundane moments, faith had always been at the center of their lives. Sarah had always taken comfort in the quiet power of prayer. Whether it was asking for guidance in a difficult decision, or simply thanking God for another day, she had never doubted His presence in her life. Ben, a steady man with a practical mind, had been the rock of their family. His belief was founded in the belief that hard work, faith, and a calm demeanor would get them through anything. The family had embarked on their camping trip to escape the pressures of work, school, and the fast-paced life they led. It was supposed to be a time of rest. They hiked, fished, and laughed by the campfire. It was in moments like these that Sarah could truly feel the peace of God. The stillness of nature mirrored the peace she felt in her heart. Yet, in an instant that peace was shattered. As the family packed up to head home, unaware of the danger closing in, their faith was about to be tested in ways they could never have anticipated. It happened faster than they could react. The radio crackled to life, announcing that a wildfire had started in the hills just beyond their path. Authorities urged travelers to remain in their vehicles as the fire had quickly spread and was moving towards them. The air grew thick with smoke, the orange sky darkened, and a sense of urgency filled the car. "Mom, what's going on?" Emma's voice trembled from the back seat, her small hands gripping the seat as she stared out the window, wide-eyed. Ben's eyes flicked from the road to Sarah, his face grim. "We'll be fine," he said, trying to reassure the kids, but even his voice lacked its usual steadiness. Sarah, who had always been the one to calm others, felt her own panic rise within her. She looked at her children, her thoughts racing, her breath shallow. What if this was the end? What if they couldn't escape? Her mind flashed back to the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, 3 men who were thrown into the fiery furnace for their faith in God. "Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and He will deliver us from your hand, O King. But if not, be it known to you, O King, that we will not serve your gods." Daniel 3 verses 17 to 18. She repeated the verse in her mind. But if not, she wasn't sure what the outcome would be, but she had to trust that no matter what, God would be with them. As the traffic remained stationary and the smoke grew thicker, Sarah could feel the weight of the situation pressing in on her. She needed to be strong for her family, but the uncertainty of the moment made her feel vulnerable. Every crackling sound in the distance felt like it was drawing closer. Her hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel. Ben turned to her, his face pale. "Sarah," he whispered, "we need to stay calm. God's got us." She nodded, but her heart wasn't as steady as her words. She thought of the verse in Isaiah, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Isaiah 43 verse 2. It was a promise she had held onto in the past, during smaller struggles. But now, it felt different. This wasn't a metaphor. This was real. Her family's lives were in danger, and the flames were coming. Could she still trust that God was with them? Emma, noticing the tension in the car, squeezed her brother's hand. "God will keep us safe, right, Mommy?" Sarah forced a smile, her voice shaky. "Yes, sweetheart. God will keep us safe." But deep inside, she wasn't so sure. And yet, as the smoke began to fill the car and the fire's heat grew near, Sarah repeated the verse in Isaiah over and over. The words were simple, but they gave her the strength she needed. Ben, too, found solace in a verse he'd often turn to in times of fear. For God gave us a spirit not of fear but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. He said it aloud, quietly, to himself. He repeated it again, louder this time. The words gave him the strength to act. We have power over this fear. We have love and self-control. Joshua, confused but sensing the tension, whispered, "But what if the fire comes?" Ben looked at him, his voice firm but loving. "We will not be consumed by the flames. God is with us." The fire was closer now, its heat creeping into the car. The sounds of crackling trees and burning brush grew louder. Sarah and Ben had both seen how quickly fires could spread. This wasn't a simple brush fire, it was an inferno. Their escape was looking less likely by the second. Ben's hands gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. "We need to get out of here now." Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't see a way out. The road ahead was blocked, the fire behind them was closing in, and the smoke was thickening to the point where it was hard to breathe. As the flames loomed ever closer, Sarah remembered the story of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea, a moment of sheer impossibility where God made a way where there seemed to be none. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Exodus 14 verse 21. Could God part the sea of flames before them? Could he create a path out of the impossible? She whispered the verse aloud, "Lord, we need your deliverance, just like you delivered the Israelites." Suddenly, through the thick smoke, Sarah saw flashing lights. Rescue vehicles appeared out of nowhere, cutting through the haze. Officers were guiding cars out of the gridlock, moving people away from the path of the fire. It felt like a miracle. Just when they thought all hope was lost, a path had opened up. Ben pressed the gas pedal and followed the officers, who ushered them forward. As they moved closer to safety, the flames behind them roared louder, but they were moving toward salvation. Sarah whispered another verse, this time from Psalm 34 verse 17. "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them, he delivers them from all their troubles." Ben held Sarah's hand, squeezing it tightly. "We're safe. We're going to make it." When the family finally reached safety, they sat in silence, watching the fire burn in the distance. It was over, but the emotional weight of the experience lingered. Sarah, still shaken but filled with peace, reflected on the moments when she had thought they might not survive. In the darkest of moments, when fear had taken over, God had been with them, just as he had promised. She turned to Ben and whispered, "We've been through the fire, but we didn't get burned." Ben smiled, his eyes soft. "God kept us safe. He always does." As they watched the flames die down, Sarah knew that her faith had been tested, but it had also been strengthened. And in the fire, she had found a deeper trust in God's promises. That night, as the family finally settled into their new, temporary safety, Sarah lay awake, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the images of the flames, the panic, the tension that had gripped her heart. The moments when she thought she might lose everything were etched deeply into her memory. The fear was almost overwhelming at times. But what stood out the most was how God had been there every step of the way. There was the feeling of suffocation in the smoke, the relentless advance of the fire, the moment when Sarah was sure that the world around her was about to change forever. And yet, somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, God had whispered peace into her soul. The Bible verses, repeated over and over, were more than mere words. They were lifelines. Each one a reminder that God was with them, even in the darkest times. In the days that followed, Sarah and Ben reflected on the experience. They talked about how their faith had been challenged but also how it had grown. Emma and Joshua, too, had witnessed the power of prayer and God's provision in their lives. When we face challenges in life, it's easy to lose sight of God's promises. We can get caught up in the storm, in the fear, and forget that God's presence is constant, no matter what. For Sarah and her family, the fire had been more than just a physical threat, it was a test of their faith. Would they still trust God when everything seemed uncertain? Would they believe that God was with them even when the flames were so close they could feel the heat? Through it all, God had been their rock. His promises never failed. Just as he had been faithful to the Israelites, he had been faithful to them. Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. What they had endured had shaped them in ways they never expected, but it had also brought them closer together. Their faith had been refined in the fire. Have you ever faced a situation that tested your faith in a way you never expected? How did you find strength in God's promises during that time? Share your story in the comments below, and let's encourage each other with our experiences of God's faithfulness. Through our shared experiences, we can inspire each other to trust in His goodness, even when the flames are high.